Welcome to the Quiz Factor Deep Dive, the next part of our tutorial series. Now that we have explored what business organizations have in common, it is time to look at the other side of the coin. Let's get started. While all organizations share a basic framework, a structured group of people working towards a collective goal, the world of business is incredibly diverse. To truly understand the business landscape, we must examine the specific dimensions that set organizations apart. Here is a comprehensive deep dive into the 6 key ways business organizations differ from one another. Objectives. What is their primary goal? The most fundamental difference between organizations is their underlying purpose. We can broadly split them into 2 categories based on their objectives. Commercial, profit-seeking. These organizations exist primarily to maximize the wealth of their owners. Everything they do is driven by the need to generate a profit. Not-for-profit, NFP. These organizations do not view profitability as their main objective. Instead, they are formed to satisfy the specific needs of their members or the broader sectors of society they were created to benefit. Examples include hospitals treating patients, charities providing disaster relief, or schools educating pupils. Ownership. Who controls the organization? Organizations differ vastly in terms of who holds the reins. Ownership typically defines whether an organization falls into the private or public sector. Private sector. These organizations are owned and run by private individuals or groups. This sector includes commercial businesses, charities, and social clubs. Public sector. These organizations are controlled by the government and are usually concerned with providing basic government services to the country, such as the military, police, public transport, and primary education. Co-operatives. A unique form of ownership where the organization is owned and democratically controlled by its members, the very people who buy its goods or services. Unlike traditional companies where votes are based on the number of shares owned, each member in a cooperative usually gets a single vote. Legal structure and liability. Who is responsible if things go wrong? How a business is legally structured drastically alters the financial risk taken on by its owners. Unlimited liability. Sole traders and traditional partnerships. A sole trader is a business owned and run by one person, where the owner is not legally separate from the business. If the business is sued or falls into debt, the owner is personally liable for those losses. Limited liability, companies. A company has a separate legal identity from its owners, the shareholders. This means the owner's liability is strictly limited to the amount of money they have invested into the company, protecting their personal assets. Private versus public companies. Within limited companies, there is a further divide. Private limited companies, LTD, cannot offer shares to the general public and are usually owned by a few people. Public limited companies, PLC, can offer shares to the general public, allowing them to have millions of shareholders and making it much easier to raise finance for massive growth. Sources of funding. Where does the money come from? Because organizations have different objectives and ownership structures, the way they raise capital differs significantly. Private sector companies and cooperatives generally raise their funds directly from their owners or shareholders. Public sector organizations are primarily funded by central government, which collects taxes from the public. Charities and NGOs rely heavily on alternative funding sources, such as public donations. Activities and sectors. What do they actually do? Organizations differ based on the specific market sectors they operate in and the activities they undertake to support their objectives. Common industrial and commercial sectors include agriculture, producing, processing, and packaging foodstuffs. Mining, extracting and processing minerals. Manufacturing, taking raw materials and transforming them into finished physical goods. Retail, selling goods produced by manufacturers directly to consumers. Finance, banking and other companies that generate profit through investments and lending money. Services, producing intangible goods and services, for example, accountancy training, legal advice. Transportation, moving goods and people between locations. Size, how large is the operation? Finally, businesses differ immensely in scale. An organization can be a tiny sole trader consisting of just one individual operating locally, or it can be a massive multinational corporation employing hundreds of thousands of people globally. In summary, while all organizations face similar operational challenges, such as motivating employees, recording financial transactions, and planning future strategies, they differ fundamentally in why they exist, who owns them, how they are funded, the legal risks their owners take, how large they are, and the specific daily activities they perform.
Now let me tell you something important. Most professional certification exams aren't just testing your knowledge, they're testing your speed, accuracy, and ability to perform under pressure. That's why practicing with real exam-style questions matters. Download QuizFactor A+. Get access to thousands of practice questions, timed quizzes, and realistic exam simulations designed to help you prepare smarter and walk into exam day with confidence. Find the link in the description.